thanks very much for the invitation, and also thanks very much for taking care of us so well, and I think we all agree on that point. Anyway, I'd like to share with you and explain, summarize some political experiences and activities that have taken place in Madrid in the last year and a half. I belong and speak today on behalf of a group of people that got together in May 2011 in Madrid, along with the movement of M15, 15M, which was about obviously occupying squares and the campsites and all that stuff that everyone could read on the papers, but also about many other stuff that I think is not so well known. Anyway, we got together in May, and since then we've been working hard, but our activities, which are strictly related to M15, are not so related that now our activities have become independent, increasingly independent from that context. Anyway, firstly, we focused on the campsites and occupied squares in Madrid, working more specifically in analyzing the inner dynamics of these squares, and also working in order to help people in the everyday life of the campsite. For instance, assessing and helping with some organization problems, issues concerning forms of individualism, and also issues concerning Madrid-centered practices. There were campsites and occupied squares throughout the country. Sometimes we had this problem concerning the relationship between Madrid and other cities. We took that very seriously. We also did a lot of work concerning media monitoring and coverage for people who were so involved in the campsites and in the process of occupying public spaces that could not easily access any other information from the outside. So we did that job for them. And later on, as soon as these M15, 15M movements changed and got new forms and developed new practices, we changed along, and we broadened our range of interests and activities, and according to this, last year we have cross-worked more with other assemblies and other groups, to a point, to an extent, that the name analysis is not very representative of the work we do anymore, but it could be misleading though, because we are not an activist research project, we are not an alternative center for studies. There are other activist research projects in Madrid that work much better than us. Observatorio Metropolitano talked yesterday, and they are more into that. We are more explicitly based on multi-political activism. That is to say that every person not only keeps up parallel activities, but is even explicitly asked to do that inside or outside M15 movements, whatever that line between inside and outside is, if existing. This means that group members, we are about 15, 20, up to 25 people sometimes. Group members have worked together or separately in other activities throughout the city and throughout these years, anti-eviction movements, co-ops, and anti-racist brigades, Brigadas Finales. It's a huge thing in some neighborhoods in Madrid. Assemblies of students and teachers, workers' meetings, specific actions in the Madrid underground against racing fares, and also the Spanish mareas, floods or tides, which is the Spanish name for sometimes massive, sometimes not so massive, sustained actions against budget cuts and for public services in several sectors from the public sector in Spain. So against budget cuts and for public services. Education, for instance, science, public health, etc. So M15 movement disseminated throughout the city. This happened also in other cities like Barcelona. Many neighborhood assemblies arose, and as a group that took part from the very beginning in this process of campsiting and occupying squares, we changed to what do we do, or what's the main point of this analysis group? Analysis group, as I said, because it works from a point of view that multi-political activism is the base, is the ground for any other activity. Analysis group works like political center for us, like a political glue for us. It sticks us and it gets us and reunites us sometimes. And we use, so we work somewhere else, and we use these other experiences and these other goals we've been fighting for in order to return this work and experience to this group and use it for different purposes. So we work somewhere else and then we return the work to analysis. This means that, and it has to be said, and being honest, this means that our bonds with the local are quite ambiguous. We aren't urban researchers, we don't work in a specific neighborhood, although some of us have interest on the subject. And all our activities are not specifically urban oriented. What we have done, we have made an effort in politicizing public spaces, but in a very basic manner, using them as much as possible, co-working with occupied spaces, and getting together in public places. After this brief introduction, what do we do? We have very briefly carried out three sorts of activities. Thank you. First one is collective participatory workshops. Secondly, we have done some job. We have done basically a job on counter-information, counter-monitoring of media, and counter-coverage of media. And thirdly, we are currently involved with an ongoing project on micro-fascism, or fascism in the everyday life of the crisis. I will only refer specifically to the first one, which is the most important thing we do right now. What is a participatory workshop? Okay, what we do is basically begin a mid and long-term political process, which starts with a simple gathering of people. What we do is using previous contacts, and we also send different rounds of emails. We try to get in touch with people who are not already politicized, but people who share problems, who feel that these problems are private or just labor salary oriented, and we try to gather these people. We try to bring these people together and give them political tools and sociological tools in order to politicize these struggles. So we try to go beyond salary-oriented struggles, and but without telling people what to do or what to think. So it's not about saying you have to be more political. It's about getting them together and giving them tools, space and time in order to produce alternatives, produce collective thinking, produce different analysis of different situations, and bring them together in a political way. What we have done is also to promote civil disobedience. There are people who can't possibly participate in assemblies, people who can't because they don't have time, they have children, whatever, they work too much, they don't have time to go to assemblies, or they don't have time to go to a squad or whatever. And what we promote is civil disobedience in the workplace democracy. workplace democracy, something they can do, easy things in the workplace, something that makes them feel politically active, not only active but useful, and things that can be done easily without taking too much risk. And as I said before, these practices are all oriented for people who are not already politicized. So we walk slow, we work very slowly. The thing is that it amazingly works. It works. I wasn't into this but a year and a half ago, but now I am, and it amazingly works. People get very involved, without spending too much time. And they have increasingly politicized their speeches, they have increasingly politicized their practices, they don't complain anymore in the coffee break, they do things, they get more interested, and they spread the word. And they increasingly politicize their everyday life. They talk more with other colleagues, they talk with neighbors, and this is what we basically do in order to get salary struggles beyond salary or beyond conditions. Conditions are very important, of course, but we think we could do better, and I think we are very slowly moving towards that direction. If you need any more information on methodology, tools, whatever, I can talk to you later. I'm running out of time. I already run. Okay. I'd like to thank you again. Analysis is a group of people who would like to regard what we do as analysis, but also as anti-capitalist militant analysis. So it's not about research, it's about participation in processes of transformation which are currently taking place. Hopefully there will be more and more powerful things.